Hi, folks. I'm Mike, and I hope you're well. Welcome to episode 21 of Fix My Mix. We are here to listen to some mixes from the community to give our opinion on how they're going so far and point people in the right direction, hopefully, for finishing off those mixes and releasing them to the world. And if they do release them to the world, then I do hope they follow this link, which is I'm pointed to here, our sponsor for the show, DistroKid. If you do follow that link, which is also in the description, you're going to get a 7% discount off of what is already a very cheap, I'm going to say, price with DistroKid. I think it's $19.99 per year, and you get to release any amount of original music you like to all your favorite sort of platforms, places like Spotify and iTunes, etc. So thank you to DistroKid there. Also a huge thank you to the people who are already here in the live chat. I see some regulars in there. We have, of course, nice to see Thomas Christ in here. Good day, Thomas. Always nice to see you in here. Had a great interview with Pete Johns over on his show 3 or 4 weeks ago, which I really, really enjoyed. And we do have the man himself, Pete Johns, in here. He's just been doing I was watching a little bit of Pete's show over there. I'm so terribly ashamed to say I've forgotten the gentleman's name who he's talking to. Is it Glenn Clark, who is a garage band producer, and just some great little insights I was watching there. So check out the replay of that after this show. Head over to Pete John's studio live today. It was just a fascinating and inspiring interview going on there. We have Mimo Japan, one of our moderators here. Behave yourself or else Mimo Japan will sort you out. And lovely to see Jade Starr in here as well. And Jade also has a wonderful channel, How to App. And she does some great interviews over there. Really, really good stuff. She's, unlike me, quite a skilled interviewer, I would say. Lovely to see Rock in here, a regular to the show. And nice to see a couple of new faces, and maybe not new, but new to me. Christopher here from, where are you from? Hamburg, is that from Hamburg, New York, just outside of Buffalo. So look, I'm sorry, my geographical knowledge isn't always that great, but nice to see you here, Christopher. And I'm just going to say a quick hi to my mum, Patricia Taplin, and she's only a couple of rooms away in the house, in actual fact. Hi, Mum. She's here. Now, I'm just going to quickly say I did make a little bit of an indication about this in the community during the week, and I'm just going to quickly address this because I've decided that I don't want to just be this sort of bland face on YouTube for you who only talks about things. A few people know, but I am going through a bit of a family issue at the moment. One member of the family is not very well and in hospital, so we're going through some stresses and strains in life at the moment. So I'm only going to be doing the live show for the time being. I probably won't be making any videos for the channel in the foreseeable future. I don't expect it to be too long. But I just want to say that it just reminds me of this is what music is really all about, our human experience. Sometimes it's troubled times, sometimes it's expression of happiness. And this is why we make music, in my opinion. And I don't want to forget that in the midst of talking about levels and EQs and compressors and what have you. Let's not forget why we're here as we listen to some of this music today. Now, this brings me to my guests on the show today. I usually have some guests on the show, and this is the first time they've been on the show. I say the first time, don't I? Because I'm hoping it may happen again. But I did, in fact, interview these guys, and that interview got broadcast this week. They are from a group called Sons of Serendip. They had some insights about a plugin they've been involved in called Micah's Choir, or say a plugin, a library that they've been involved with. If you haven't seen that on the channel, it just went out a couple of days ago, do check that out. Now, they are going to be here giving advice, as I will be today, for the 3 mixes we'll be listening to on the show. But before we introduce them, I kind of want to help their credibility a little bit. That sounds awful, doesn't it? I'm going to make them more credible just by playing just a little bit of their music. Okay, I'm not going to play a whole song, but let's give you a taste of where these guys come from musically as we listen to this cover, I believe, High Hopes from Sons of Serendip.
Mama said, fulfill the prophecy, be something greater. Go make a legacy, manifest destiny. Back in the days we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said, burn your biographies, rewrite your history, light up your wildest dreams, museum victories. Every day we wanted everything, wanted everything. Mama said, don't give up, it's a little complicated, all tied up, no more love, and I'd hate to see you waiting. Had to have high hopes for a living, shooting for the stars when I couldn't make a killing. Didn't have a dime, but I always had a vision, always had high hopes. Had to have high hopes for a living. Didn't know how, but I always had a feeling I was gonna be that one in a million. Always had.
So here they are, Micah and Cordero. Oh, suddenly they're on the screen. Welcome, guys. Oh, my God. That gives you credibility right there, doesn't it? What a wonderfully produced track, and now we all want to know how you did it.
Cordero.
Yeah.
Mike, thank you for having us on. It's really good to see you again.
Yeah, my pleasure. We were saying beforehand, weren't we? We did that interview, and then we had like a 3-hour chat after the interview somehow.
Yeah,
and it was a lot of fun, and you guys have some tremendous insights into music life and everything, actually. But Micah, I'm sorry, Cordero, like even listening to that mix now, do you still get that? Oh, that bass is a little high, or do you feel that's perfect?
Actually, I was surprised by it. I was expecting less. I was like, oh, wait. Oh, that sounded better than I remembered. I think maybe time kind of helps.
Absolutely, doesn't it? Time really does help in the process of like music production and listening, and then sort of space or distance, being able to step back also like really helps. And I often use my poor mum as an example, but I'm talking about mothers in general, or girlfriends or friends. They're not always our best listeners. They tend to want to say kind things about, mind you, I've got a couple of family members who don't always say kind things, but you know, there's a tendency not to get a true perspective right from. So can I ask either one of you? You can argue amongst it, but is there any kind of process you kind of have for going, right, who do we test this mix out on?
for me, it's my wife.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's very blunt.
Oh, is she?
And
Oh, really?
yeah, very, very blunt, and she'll just say exactly what she feels, and sometimes it stings, but yeah. But I think I love it though.
Any particular examples you can think of there?
Pretty much everything that I create, I go to her first, just
Yeah.
to get a sense of, all right, how is it feeling? You know, do you like it? And where do you hear, the problem parts or whatever? And then
Yeah.
after that, it's Cordero. And Cordero is also very honest too. And
I sort of imagine he would be, because
yeah,
I don't think he's going to allow anything, not so great to go out there to the world.
right.
Am I right,
And so
Cordero?
I've learned a lot from Cordero. Just for him just speaking frankly about, where things are at and where they could be.
Good stuff. We are going to dive straight in and listen to the first song on the show. And I just want to remind the folks in the live chat, while we listen to this, your opinions on what you're hearing is also tremendously important. This is an exercise not only of giving a critique on this piece of music, but it's also an exercise for all of us to exercise our ears, listening to things and trying to figure out how things could be improved. So I love doing this every week, because I feel it helps me to evaluate what I'm hearing and to exercise the ear muscles, if we have ear muscles. I guess we do have ear muscles. I don't know. Obviously I'm not a physiologist, so The first song we've got here, in fact, I'll have Cordero read out the artist's name and the name of the piece. It's just going up on the screen there now, Cordero.
All right. This is Andy Gallagher, You Gave Me a Dream.
You Gave Me a Dream. Andy sent in this song, and he said there are a couple of things he'd like to point out initially. There's no EQ, compression, or any other effects on any of the tracks except reverb on the vocals because he doesn't like singing into a dry mic. The mix is just done with volume faders at this point. There's no gain stage or anything like that. Just going to quickly give you Andy's thoughts on the mix, and I think it's interesting that we have Micah here as a vocalist as well to talk about this, because Andy says vocals. What he would do is get someone better to sing it. Seriously, I'm a guitarist, not a singer. I sing because I have to. He says, I've doubled the vocals. I think the voice is weak and a single track voice. Some of the words are not clear. I'm mixing things. Lacks a bit of punch and sparkle. This is Andy's own opinion. We'll see, Andy, if we agree with that or not. And then he also said the main guitar solo, I'm not sure if this is a bit too clean. Maybe could do with a bit of affecting somehow. So we've got those things in mind. Let's have a listen to this song from Andy Gallagher. thanks, Andy. Look, it's 8:20 in the morning here. I feel like a good vibe, to be honest with you. After listening to that, I feel like I can face the day with a bit of a, yeah, my shoulders relaxed. I'm feeling pretty good. But there was a lot that Andy had to say about his own vocals. So why don't we go over to Micah and say what Micah has to say about Andy's vocals? Any
I
advice
actually
there,
thought,
Micah?
well, I thought that the vocal that he did it, he did what he needed to do for this particular track.
Right.
And I didn't think that actually the vocals needed to change. There was like just one little section where there was a little clashing in the harmonies, just a little bit. I think it was, I can't remember the exact words that but it was about 3/4 of the way through. And there's just some slight clashing, but
When you say clashing, you
like
mean
one of the harmonies either was just slightly out of tune
Right.
or
Got you.
yeah. And then I would pull back on the reverb a little bit on the background vocals, I think, and just experiment with that a little bit more, because I felt like sometimes the harmonies felt that they were kind of washed out just a little bit. But I thought in terms of like his vocals on the track, I thought that they did the job and they were appropriate for this track.
Right.
So
Got you. And that's so important, isn't it? Yeah. I feel like maybe this style of music, you know, vocal gymnastics and things is not what you want, right? You
Right.
want to kind of, I mean, I don't want to preempt anything that Cordero might say, so I'm not going to say too much about it. But do you feel that sometimes, Micah, that vocals almost feels like such a personal thing? I mean, I play a couple of instruments and I sing, and it always feels like when I'm singing, it's like it's revealing the inside of myself, revealing my heart, right? So you feel so vulnerable when you're singing, right?
yeah.
And is there a tendency to be overcritical of ourselves and our own voice, perhaps?
Absolutely. For me, I actually put music to the side, to the margins of my life for years, because I had spent so many years comparing myself to other people and saying, "Oh, I can't sing like that person. I don't have the agility of that person,"
Right.
and really didn't find the value in my own voice the way that I should have. And I think that, yeah, each of us is given, you know, a particular gift, you know, a particular voice, and my voice will connect with certain people but won't connect with others, and
Yeah.
so
Right.
but it's just about sharing the gift. So
So true.
yeah,
So
and
true.
Andy definitely like nailed it for what that track needed. That was perfect. So
Cool. I hope that gives you some encouragement there, Andy, because as I say, I know it's a deeply personal thing, and then you feel exposed and you put it out there. And of course, he's a home studio producer, so he kind of feels like he kind of is needing to do everything himself, maybe not access easily to another vocalist or something. So he feels a little forced into the role of singing, I think, from his email there. But I personally think, no worries, man. Just do what you do, and of course, the more you do it, the better you'll get at it anyway. You know, Cordero. Let's leave all that singing rubbish aside and talk about this from a real musician's point of view.
Well, you know,
whatever,
I
Mike.
think,
Whatever.
I think that the singing can, you know, make or break it, and I think the singing in this did not break it. I think it was. I just agree with Micah that it was appropriate for this song, and yeah, I couldn't imagine. Actually, it was hard for me to imagine any other kind of vocal, like vocal style that would go with this song. But yeah, overall, it gave me like a kind of a nostalgia vibe. Definitely like a feel good kind of. Yeah, it felt great. I really appreciate the live instruments. That's that's huge, and I think actually this kind of track seems like something that could be syncable for like a sort of like a character track where like yeah, like it sets a certain vibe that it would be perfect as like some music like on the background, or even as like a kind of a montage kind of vibe. For what decade would you place that, Micah? I would, or Mike.
I think somebody had mentioned 70s, but
70s?
yeah, but I'd have to listen again.
Yeah, I
And
thought it was 70s, 80s kind of a
yeah,
thing going on there for sure. Yeah. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I, I, just because I use the term there, Cordero, so for people who are not familiar with it, syncing it. So Cordero is really talking about, using it as soundtrack kind of music. I guess is the the easiest way to describe that. And it's really interesting, actually. I hadn't thought of that, Cordero, until you said that. Was there anything about the mix though that sort of stuck out to you in particular, or?
I would go with everything that he kind of gave us a warning about. Yeah, there's things that can be worked on there, and also I know that I have to be aware that even listening to it through like the compression that's coming through this platform that we're listening
Mm, mm, mm.
also can affect how it was perceived. Um,
True.
but I did appreciate the arrangement of it and the chords and the chord progression. Like it wasn't just like a boring four chord
Mm, mm.
repetitive progression. It had there was like several parts, A, B, C. Like it was, there's a lot of different parts to it, and it felt like it was well thought out, like how he wanted to sculpt the whole story of the song.
Yeah.
I really really did like the piano motif towards the
Yeah,
end.
I thought you might
Yeah,
pick up on that.
yeah.
It was nice. It was sitting in there nicely. I mean, nice songwriting, by the way, as well, Andy. For that sort of genre of music, it just had what you need in there. There was a definite sort of chorusy hook kind of thing in there, and you could sense. Although I didn't pay strong attention to the lyrics, you could sense the story being told in there. I'm sure on a second or third listen, that would be something I'd more hone into a bit more. I'm just
and I
going to
would
give,
actually push the vocals up just a little bit
yeah,
too.
one of the things I was just going to say. Actually, I felt that the vocals were a little low. They just need to be pushed up a bit. People in the chat were mentioning about reverb and the use of reverb, and Micah said there that perhaps there was a little too much reverb on the backing vocals. I think you said, Micah. And I'd agree with that. There's a temptation. There's two things that stand out for me there, coming back to the subject of feeling a little insecure about your vocal, and especially if you're mixing it yourself. So you'll have two tendencies there. One is to put it too low in the mix because you're not feeling secure about it, and also slap a bunch of reverb on it because everything sounds nice with reverb, right? So it makes you sound more professional or what have you. And every karaoke bar you go to in the world has people with slammed, or the machines have slammed so much reverb on there. It's crazy.
I
But
would
yeah,
I would push back just a little bit
yeah, go.
on the use of reverb. I think that was what kind of helped create the vibe. Like
Mm,
I've heard some songs that have this kind of um, spacey reverb. Like what's that? Is it like Pumped Up Kicks or what's that song? All the other like there's like they have this
mm,
kind of really
mm.
spacey
Yeah,
verb sound. Um, and maybe it's just a question of the type of reverb that's used or something.
right, right.
But I
Well,
actually kind of like that sort of how it kind of just kind of gave it some like an interesting space. But
so there's
it depends on the intent.
some of the things that can be done there, and I'm glad you mentioned it though, because Andy was mentioning that he's just done a fader mix really. But of course,
Mhm.
the other thing with reverb is EQing reverb. Often uh, for me personally, but it would be taking out the low end of the reverb, or only
Mhm.
sending sending the higher end of your vocal to the reverb, so that because the reverb can become very muddy, very very quickly, especially when you've
Mhm.
got main vocal and then backing vocals,
Mhm.
and all that low and low mids are also having that reverb applied. It can all sound a bit sort of soft and mushy. Whereas if you just use the high end, it can sound nice and sparkly
Mhm.
without getting too muddled up. And because you do lose definition from the vocal when you get that muddiness in there with the
Mhm.
reverb. So
Mhm.
now, just quickly, I am going to. I've said what I liked about it. I will say that the drums on there were particularly enjoyable for me. There was some nice loose fills going on and things there, which just had that nice shuffle that you get with that kind of music, which everything feels at one and nice. It was really really nice, the drums on there. And I liked the guitar tone. He mentioned that maybe he felt it might be a little bit too clean. That wasn't my impression, although you could try something just a little bit more overdriven. But I thought the guitar playing was really, really nice in some parts.
Yeah.
I very much enjoyed it. The one thing I will say is that right at the beginning of the track, there was a synth sound, which this sounds a bit of a weird thing to say, but I felt that this synth sounded very dated. That would be the best way I could describe it. Now, certain sounds are going to be associated with certain eras. And now, if you wanted that, if that was your goal, Andy, and you were like, I want to place this right in the 80s and get that thing, then that would be okay. But for me, the rest of the track sounded like it also could be quite contemporary. And I'm just going to play those first few seconds of the song again. You'll hear that synth sound. If my video will play, I'll try again. We'll bring it to the beginning. There we go. Technical hitches here, folks. It's live. Let's have a listen to that synth. I think it might be a sort of a synth string sound, you know, from back in the day. And I just, whether you like it, and I will mention that did make it sound dated in a way that for me wasn't all that pleasant. I might have a look in your libraries and see if you could replace that with something else. That would be my only more, well, that's my opinion. But, you know.
I would agree. I would agree with that. Yeah, another kind of library would work well, and maybe even a smaller, or if you can get live players. I don't know what the budget is, but if you can get live players, that could be really good.
We don't all have your access to live players, but I know you can just
Tony,
go, I need a cello.
Cordero is the live player.
He sits there with his friend Micah, who can jump in on the track. And he sits there. He goes, you know what? I'd love a harp on a track. I'd love to have a harp. Oh, who do I know who could add a harp? The rest of us are going through harp libraries.
Well, I'm curious if was it. It seems like that might have been a sound that came straight from a keyboard. Like, was any of this like MIDI, or was that did that come like? Did you just plug that into like an audio input and record it?
Good question. I'm suspecting that's come from a synthesizer. It doesn't sound, you know, but who knows? Let Andy let us know in I don't think he's here live today, so Andy can let us know in the comments down below the video, as everyone can if you'd like to leave some comments. I'm going to do a quick word from our sponsor. Andy, when you do get this together and release your music, I really think, and I'm not saying this because it's a sponsor, I use DistroKid for everything I release. Tremendous service, and let me tell you about it quickly now. Just like this. If you do follow the link in the description down below, it's going to take you to a special page on DistroKid with this yellow banner at the top. That banner is letting you know that you're going to get a further 7% discount off your first year if you sign up here. And let's face it, it's already very cheap. If we scroll down, we can see that a year's membership is $19.99 per year for an unlimited number of albums and songs. And so long as it's your own music, there are no extra charges, and you get to keep all of the royalties from the various platforms. Platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, TikTok, Pandora, Amazon, Instagram, Tidal, iHeartRadio, Deezer, and more. So, we're talking about getting music out there and releasing music and that kind of thing. I want to tell you about an event which is happening. I'm going to sort of inspire the guys to tell you about an event that's happening and some live music going out there on YouTube. And we'll go to Micah to just shamelessly produce your live stream, promote your live stream, Micah, which is happening next week, is it?
Yeah, it's on the 28th, and it's at 7 p. Cordero, oh my gosh, I am blinking. I believe it's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time in the U.S. And yeah, we're gonna be doing a virtual concert, and yeah, and we would love to see, you know, as many of you who are interested to come out and join us for that night. It'll be probably it'll be a mixture of songs that we like that are cover songs as well as originals and improv, and we're going to be doing some storytelling as well. And what's special about that concert too is that it's actually our cellist Kendall Ramseur's last concert with the group, and he'll be moving on, and so we're going to be celebrating him as well. So it's going to be a
Well,
special night.
I love the way you put that, celebrating. I was almost about to jump in and say Micah's doing such a rubbish job of promoting himself. I'm going to have to jump in. There is a link in the description, folks, of this video pointing to the Sons of Serendip YouTube page. I don't think I did put a link to their Facebook page. Look them up on Facebook. They've made some announcements there over the last week or so about this event. And you can pick up your local time for when this is going on. I don't think you've sort of logged in the YouTube event yet as such. Last time I looked.
No, not yet.
Yesterday. But that will go up there. So, folks, follow the link for Sons of Serendip, which is down in the description down below. Subscribe to their channel, and then I've watched some of the replays of your live shows. It's amazing what you guys do with that. I mean, I think that looks like a technical nightmare for people that are kind of doing it themselves. I'm sure when I say people, we mean Cordero. But
Cordero, yeah.
But yeah, it's really great. It's a great experience just to see four musicians doing it live. Yeah, not pre-recording, nothing to hide behind, and a lot of fun. So do check that out, folks. As you should, their Sons of Serendip, other music as well. Kiara, thank you so much for putting that also in the live chat down there. So I'm definitely going to be checking that out. Good luck with that, guys. And
thank you.
And also, I just wanted to ask, is your new cellist going to be involved with that, or is this Kendall's all about Kendall?
All about Kendall.
All about Kendall. Okay.
Yeah, because we're still in a process of finding the long-term cellist. So
okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool. Got you there. So well, I certainly wish him well. I know he's obviously it's an instrument and which has been a major part of your music for the last 8 years, and influenced your sound and everything. So he's obviously had a massive impact on your group, and wish him well for the future. And I'm really glad that you guys are continuing with Sons of Serendip and evolving into something that's just going to take a little bit of a different direction, no doubt, once you get a different influence in the group, which is so exciting, isn't it? Sometimes we don't choose these things, but when they come along, we can embrace it and have a great time with it. Now, our second song, I say song because I'm going to say our second piece because it's actually an instrumental. Now, there's some things which challenge us on this show, I think, and I'm always upfront about this. Pieces of music which are long, I think that becomes a thing in itself, an element of the music. Like, can you hold people's interest if it's long, if it's, say, 5 minutes long or something? In a culture where we tend to listen to music which is 3 to 3.5 minutes long. So, and then instrumentals. We are so accustomed to hearing vocals all the time. People like Micah with their huge egos coming along saying it's all about me, it's all about me. And so to listen to, when someone creates an instrumental, I think there's a new challenge within this culture where people are normally, listening to some lyrics and things. Can we hold their attention, etc., etc.? Can it be stimulating enough? So I think there's a challenge right off. Now the song, I'll let Micah have the honor of reading out the artist name and song title.
So it is Simon Chandler, and the song is My Family.
Here we go. So Simon, he quickly says, "Hi, Mike. I hope you're well. I am. Thank you, Simon. I'm Simon from Bromley in the UK. I'm hoping you would review my track, My Family. It's an instrumental track, all performed by myself and recorded in Cakewalk. This is interesting. What I was trying to achieve was to capture just how much fun it can be to play the guitar with the freedom to take it wherever you want." I know. Now, this is scary at this moment. You think, oh my goodness, it's going to be one of those self-indulgent, take it wherever I want. But we'll see. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't believe you've had anything quite like that on Fix My Mix. Are you brave enough to take it on? There was a bit of a reverse psychology going on with this email, I have to say, right?
That was brilliant.
Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It was like he almost played the coward card on me. I'm like, but this Simon, now he's gonna have to live up to this, I guess, in a way. But no, we'll listen to this, and I guess the question here, because he does state a purpose for the piece of music. was to capture just how much fun it can be to play the guitar with the freedom to take it wherever you want. And I guess that's going to be how we can evaluate this piece of music ultimately is, do we get a sense of that fun? So sounds like I sound like one of those shows that you guys have been on. Let's judge this person. But anyway, we'll see how we go with the mix and the music. Well. I saw Cordero sort of bobbing around a little bit there, so I think we'll go to him first, in actual fact. And yeah, I mean, thoughts?
I mean, that was definitely fun. Like, I think it was a mission accomplished. How much fun you had on the guitar, it definitely was that. What did I write down here? There's one point where it had sort of a James Bond feel. It was a story. It was a full, complete story, I guess, with all the different, sections it took us through. And I guess because it is an instrumental, it's very easy to start to zone out. And just when you feel that temptation to kind of zone out, he switches it up, and then you're brought back into it again. And so, yeah, those are my initial impressions of the song.
Anything about the mix itself that struck you at any point? Or?
Yeah, so it didn't feel like as polished as it could be. Like, there's probably some, I guess, with most things that you hear like released commercially, like things will be kind of lined up a little bit cleaner. But this, it retained a sort of, live kind of vibe and like a live musician vibe. But
Mm.
I'm curious if there were some things that could have probably been lined up just a little bit more in terms of like rhythms. But
When you say right, rhythmically lined up, yeah, got
rhythmically,
you,
yeah.
yeah, got you.
Um,
It's a fine line,
yeah.
isn't it? Always between we often talk about in the show this conflict between perfection and imperfection and what have you. So I believe there's a point where you reach with some sort of natural variation where you know when it's right, okay, and then you know when it's too perfect as well, when things are lined up too much, and it's a bit of a judgment call. But I don't think anything should ever be noticeably out of time. Do you know what I mean? Just from a musical point of view, where you go, that those two instruments hit it, and there was too much of a stagger,
Right.
or what have you. But a little bit of looseness can work really, really well. Can actually
Yeah.
add to the track enormously. You know. Do you guys with your kind of lineup? Do you like play to a grid, or do you line things up? I mean, I know you're recording, live instruments, but they can still be quantized, right, to a degree.
Yeah, we do line up a lot, a good portion of things. I think mainly like the thing that's the hardest to line up would be the harp,
Mm.
because it's probably similar to a guitar, because like certain notes will sustain, like so the transient will happen, and then you'll have other notes that are already sustaining through the transient. And so if you were to try to line that transient up, that initial pluck to the grid, you're going to kind of warp the rest of the
Yeah, right.
other
Yeah,
sounds.
yeah.
So it's a little bit of work to kind of get that to sound right. But if you don't do it, like for particularly things that have like a nice pulse to it,
Mm.
it can really sound, sloppy, especially
Mm.
because if it's just the harp being exposed on its own. I imagine if we had like several harps playing at once, that even if they're all off sort of just a little bit, it all blends to create this sort of master transient that sounds like it's on the beat. But
Yeah, right.
um,
Got you.
which I would say with what he has here, like there's a number of guitars that kind of helped create the feel that for most of the time that it was landing on like the beat and stuff. But yeah, I guess there's for me a little bit more lining up, I would
Cool.
say, could help.
Interesting. Micah, I also saw
Yes.
you bobbing your head a little bit there during that. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was going on there for you?
So I enjoyed the track,
Mm.
and I would agree with Cordero. There were certain things that could have been lined up a little bit more, a little bit better, and also I would say that the guitar parts were probably the best, most polished parts of the track. I think that the drums, the percussion, probably could either there could be some layers added into that, or some let me see. I would say that they could pop a little bit more.
Right.
The snare could come up a little bit more and just have a little bit, more like pop to it.
Yeah.
And and I would even play with some of the just some of the, like, so it's not just the same rhythm coming in every time that part that
main
comes
motif.
that main motif comes in. I would switch it up just a little bit, and maybe explore with different sounds or even layers of percussion to help build it even more.
Although I was so pleased when I was listening to that, because I literally, when I got the email, I maybe listened to the first 5 seconds of the song. So this is the first time for me, and I was really pleased when we heard that main theme. I thought, okay, this is fun, And just at the moment when I think Keonra left a message in the chat there where she said, "Oh, this is fun," it totally sunk down and became really dark, and that was so much fun in itself, wasn't it? Right, because it was so unexpected. And I feel like Simon tricked me a little bit twice in this email. First of all, with the reverse psychology. And also, I think he's trying to tell us, this was just a fun thing that I chucked together, a bit of a jam. But this wasn't a jam at all. This was structured and
Elaborate.
Yeah, good word. Yeah, like, and as Cordero so rightly pointed out, is that they just at that moment when you could have switched off mentally, it surprised you. So I just think here, this is one of those cases where, yes, the production could do with some improvement, but fortunately, the composition is really quite good.
Yes.
So it's actually masking some of the poor production a little, I don't want to say poor production, but production that could be worked on. I personally, the only thing I really noticed was the drums they weren't enough for me. I mean, Mike could probably put it better than me. He said the snare could pop. I disagree. I think it should crack. But whether it pops or it cracks, we've got a difference of opinion here, Simon. You'll have to figure that out, whether you pop or crack the snare. But there could be more presence in there, and maybe a little bit, if I use another commonly used word by producers, punch as well. A little bit of punch in the drums, whatever that really means. But yeah, what we'll do, you've still got your guitars and things as your main instrument. Obviously, they've got the spotlight on them. But we can take our main instruments and support them with well-produced supporting instruments underneath them. To the point where, how can I put this, where if you did improve the drums, still nobody's going to be sitting here saying, great drums, but they'll feel like the guitars actually got better.
Yeah, right,
because
right.
the drums, so that would be the sort of the trick there. But look, really, really good fun. Thank you so much, Simon, for sending that in. People, if you have instrumentals, or if you have unusual pieces of music that you think we don't normally hear on the show, please do send them in. I don't have any rules about what kind of music we have here. Any genres, any languages, lengths of time as well. I have some longer tracks on here, some shorter tracks. It's all very, very welcome. I feel personally that oh God, I don't even like this term mainstream media, but let's use it. The mainstream media outlets obviously push mainstream music an awful lot. But I think there's so much room to have all kinds of different music in the world to stimulate our ears with. So it's really nice that you do send this music into the show and give us all a chance to listen and have some fun listening to it. And I commend you on your bravery as well, people that produce tracks like this, of doing it regardless of what the trend is, regardless of the fact that perhaps instrumental pieces of music are never going to be released onto mainstream radio or what have you. You're doing it anyway because you love it, and that's why you should make music. Number one reason why you should make music. So commend people like Simon on that. We do have a really unusual third track coming up, but before we have the unusual third track, a quick word about our sponsor. This is just one of my guests called this my crash commercialism a few weeks ago. So let's go ahead with a little bit of crash commercialism. These guys would never say that, folks. They're very polite, Michael Cordero. They would say that. If you want to release your music via DistroKid, there's just a couple of things you need. First of all, the music itself. Here's mine in my DAW Cakewalk, and I'm exporting it to an uncompressed WAV file for best results. Now, the other thing you'll need is some artwork. I just grabbed an old photo, which I'd taken on the beach, chucked on some text here, and that's what I call art. Then I went over to DistroKid, and I just have to fill in this extra easy form. It's a no-brainer form. You get helped all the way through with little hints and things. You can't really do anything wrong. You just go ahead and confirm a few things about your music, and then you just have to actually upload the artwork and the song itself, and DistroKid takes care of the rest. It's going to send it out to all of the best platforms so that people can hear and buy your music. Now, before we do listen to this third piece of music, I just want to clear something up quickly. It was on my mind earlier and I didn't get to it. Because we did have an interview between the three of us, which went out on the channel a couple of days ago. Do check that out, folks. I recommend while you're doing something, maybe you're doing your morning walk like I've been doing recently. I'm on day 20, I think, of my morning walks, or something close to that. Thank you for Chris Salem from Mixdown Online, who encouraged me to start taking care of my body. And so it's just like a morning walk every morning. Anyway, I digress, because during this interview with you guys, Micah mentioned that he uses olive oil. I know Doug in the comments was inspired by that, and unfortunately he found an old bottle of rancid olive oil during the week. It did inspire him enough to actually go out and buy a new bottle of olive oil. Well done, Doug, on that. But we do have to clear something up here, Micah, because I forgot to ask you during the interview. Is this like a pint of olive oil or a teaspoon,
No.
or do you gargle it? Or I mean,
It's like a shot of olive oil.
a shot?
Yeah,
Okay,
and
there
it's
was some
extra
discussion.
virgin olive oil. Yeah.
Extra virgin olive oil, folks. You hear it here. It's got to be a shot. Now, how long before you actually sing do you do this?
Probably 30 minutes before I'll
Right.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
like between 30 would probably be the earliest I would do it. Like,
Right.
but I might even do it right before going on. But I'll have a swig of water afterwards too.
Yes. Okay. So
Yeah.
it's like gargly olive oil thing. So it's great. Christopher says in the chat here, olive oil and red pepper flakes.
That's
I'm not sure.
delicious. Yes. Chris, you're right.
Okay. I don't know if that's good for
Yep.
singing or just tastes great, but
No,
anyway.
it just tastes great.
Okay, yeah. I was going to say chili and singing. I'm not so sure. But yeah, anything that you found, Michael, which is not good before you sing.
Not good before I sing. So green tea actually dries me out.
All right.
So I actually tried that one time, just to have a cup of green tea, and throughout the concert I was struggling. And then I think I might have tried it twice, and both times it dried me out. So yes,
cool.
I avoid that.
Before
Just before the show. Yeah. Just
Music
before
Life
performance.
Crypto says, what does the olive oil do? Well, Music Life Crypto, nice to see you here. We had some of your music a few weeks ago on the show. Sounded great. What it does, if there's some hidden things on the internet here and there of Micah singing without olive oil, and he is awful. He is really bad. Like, it's out of tune. Like, he has to use Melodyne if he doesn't use olive oil. It's basic. So think of it as Melodyne, I guess. That would be my short answer for that. Makes you sound like Micah Christian. What olive oil does. Maybe Cordero could use that to get rid of his Kermity Frog voice when he sings. You never know.
Perhaps.
Miracles can happen. Miracles can happen. Now, I did mention earlier that we have any kind of music on the show, and also mentioned in any language. And we've got something really new, which I haven't had on the show before. This is a song. I will read it out. Read this out. No, I'm not going to read this out. Let's go back to Micah for this, for the pronunciation. Here's the artist and song title. Micah, go.
All right, so Sandeep Bose or Bosi. Neil Swapno Lal Golpo.
Congratulations, you've just spoken in Bengali for the first time, I assume, in your life.
No, it's not the first time. Yeah.
Oh, really? Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, now we've got a story. Tell me.
No, I spent a month in Calcutta, India, and I learned some Bengali while I was out there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Can you say anything else in Bengali? Now you've said it. You know.
Yeah, it's just so a greeting is Kemonacho, and then they would say, "Oh, Polochi." So,
oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm super impressed. So I'm not quite sure of how we do pronounce the artist name, but I'm going to go for Serendip Bose, okay? Because that just sounds
Serendip
cool
Bose.
to me. I'm going to go for that. Who knows if
Awesome.
that's correct or not? But he says, "Dear Mike, please find attached a composition of my own. It's in my mother tongue Bengali, recorded in Cakewalk. I'm a self-taught musician, been around for 40 years, toured all over India and UK with various bands. I'm a full-time teacher working in a music school called the Strum Music School in Bangalore, India. That's where my son is getting married in September, by the way,
Wow.
in Bangalore, India. Please see whether the mix is worthy of your show." I think that's very complimentary of the show. Thank you so much, Sandip. We're going to have a listen to this piece of music, and I think just before we do, folks, do try to stretch yourself once in a while and listen to music which is from different cultures and in different languages. You won't understand the lyrics, so you'll listen in a different way. But I think it's really good for you to stretch yourself and exercise that kind of listening once in a while. Let's have a listen.
করেছিলে আমায় কেন এই লাল আকাশ আসলে আকাশটাও গেছে রেগে করছে আমাদের পরিহাস মায়ের চোখের জল আজ শুকিয়ে গেছে আর ছেলেরা করছে মারামারি আজ মাঠে ময়দানে আমাকে যেতে হবে বহু দূরে ওই মরুভূমির প্রান্তরে হাত পা কাটা সৈনিকদের হৃদয়ে আলো জ্বালাতে হবে তাদের মায়েদের চোখের জল আমায় মুছতে হবে আর বাবাদের চাপা কান্না আমায় সহ্য করতে হবে রাজার নাম আলেকজান্ডার তার বাবা নাকি তাকে বলেছিল তার রাজ্যটা বড়ই ছোট তাই ঘোড়ায় চড়ে আলেকজান্ডার বহু রাজ্য জয় করলো আর পথে পথে পড়ে রইল অসংখ্য মানুষের মৃতদেহ রাজাদের এখনো দেখি আমি ভিন্ন ভিন্ন বেশে মানুষরাই বুঝছে রাজাদের রাজারা তাদের মারবে বলে আমাদের ওই কিন্তু আকাশ দুঃখের মধ্যেও হাসে যেন মানুষ ধ্বংস হলে সে যায় বেঁচে শুনতে চায় লাল গল্প লাল আকাশ নীল স্বপ্ন পাখিরা শুনতে চায়
Well, I feel like Micah, as the only Bengali speaker here, should go first. And perhaps you could give some of the feedback in Bengali, Micah.
No, I can't. I didn't stay long enough. Yeah, that actually, I think one thing about that was that I connected with that. I really resonated on a deeper level with that, and especially the harmonies. And yeah, like that was really beautiful how it so it went from uh being very ethereal in terms of the harmonies, and then it got closer and closer and closer, until at the very end it felt like the harmonies were right there, like right next to you. And so yeah, I really appreciated that. I thought it was a really creative track. I do think I will say that there were some timing issues. There was a little drum fill that felt a little random at the beginning, where everything cut out, and then there was it like came out of nowhere a little bit. And I would say too that some of the panning, it seemed like it was panned to the right like a little bit too much. Like there were certain things that I would or I'd say some of the vocals, you could hear more on the right side than you could on the left. And so I would balance that out a little bit more, but it seemed like there was a lot of thought put into it in terms of creating separation, and which I appreciated. However, I would just boost a little bit on the left, or just like figure out a way to balance that out just a little bit more. And yeah, but overall, I enjoyed that. I thought it was very creative, and yeah, and I actually felt a little bit emotional by the end of it.
Cool.
So
Awesome.
yeah.
I mean, that's the purpose of music in the end. So
Yeah, and I think that's another thing about it too, is that even though I didn't understand the lyrics, there was still something that was transcendent about it
right.
that was able to reach me.
Cool, lovely, nice feedback. I like that. Now, I think this is going to be the tougher judge here, Kaderi.
So I mean, I made a list of things, but
yes, I saw you writing.
Yeah.
He's got a list. He's got a list. Oh my God, yeah, go on.
But I do want to start by saying the same thing like with Micah, that I was moved by it, particularly like the harmonies and like the kind of ghostly feel that it had in certain places. It was like a beautiful haunting sound. I would say that there was like a lot of like volume inconsistencies with like the main vocal. It was well that, but I wasn't sure how it was placed in the broader mix. The broader mix, it felt I don't know, it didn't feel like it was a part of the song. And I'm not sure if that could have been fixed with more reverb, or maybe it needed some bottom end or something. I'm not exactly sure. I wasn't a big fan of like the string or synth sound in the beginning, but I'm also picky with that. There was, I feel like there was a little too much reverb on the snare.
Yes, yeah, I think a number of people picked up on that.
Yeah, it just stuck out. I did appreciate the little guitar riff. It kind of had the little embellishments that you would hear sometimes in that kind of music. Usually you hear it with the voice, but it was kind of done on the guitar. And so I actually really like that. I think even though with the guitars, there was like some rhythm issues. I mean, with the drums and the guitar all together, like there was like it was really hard to figure out who was off, who was on, or if they're both off. Like it was just I feel like that there should be some more lining up there. And even like the panning of some of the things, sometimes it felt a little like some of the instruments or percussion, it felt a little too exaggerated, the panning. I feel like it almost what would have helped is if that kind of those elements had some kind of reverb that appeared a little bit on the opposite side, so that it felt like it was placed in a space rather than just kind of like I feel like there's like several different spaces in the song.
Right. Yeah. I'm glad you raised that. A regular on the show, Pete John Stew live today, he's often talking about using reverb to place things in the same space. So I'm a little torn on this. I think there are times where we use reverb as a stylistic, creative thing,
Mm-hmm.
and then there are times where we use it to mimic real life and say, how do
Yeah.
we put all these instruments? So when you have something like a snare, which has this huge reverb on it, and then everything else apparently is in a much smaller room, it can feel a little, when it's obviously trying. I think this track would be trying to be authentic, as it were, rather than
Mm-hmm.
experimental sounding. Then it maybe sounds a little off. So I probably think reverb, because you were talking about a weird sense of things not quite always feeling like they're belonging together, and
Mm-hmm.
reverb may be the answer to that a little in this
Mm-hmm.
mix. I would say, yeah. Carry on, Jermaine.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So then, like, yeah. I mean, I guess there's also I would say I really love the bridge. Like when it just got this. Yeah, it took me into a really meditative space.
Mm-hmm.
Really was feeling that. Let's see. I'll end up harmony good. I really love the ending. Um, I think that's the main thing. It's just
Mm.
like the biggest criticism I think was just the inconsistency of spaces. Like it's cool to have like you were saying, like not everything has to be exactly in the same space. If you're trying to do some experimental stuff, like that ghostly reverb on the voices, like I think that was a cool experiment, and I think that should
Mm.
stay.
Mm, mm,
Um,
mm, mm, mm.
um, but then like the main for most of the time with the vocals, it just felt like it wasn't placed with the rest of the instruments, and then that snare that just had reverb for days.
Cool.
Um, yeah, so that's what I have.
Awesome. I think you guys have covered a lot of what I was going to say. I just want to have a quick chat about my theory about timing and the acoustic guitar. Firstly, I think the sound, the tonal quality of the acoustic guitar, and this was really, really nice, captured really well. And so when the piece of music started out, I'll just play it again, just the very beginning. We'll go back to the beginning. One moment.
I love that
doing
chord
its
progression.
thing. So when I first heard this, I thought right away with the little doo-doo-doo, I felt, oh, the timing's a little off on there, but I like it. It was my initial impression was, oh, because it just sounds kind of cool, like very natural, like this guy's sitting next to you with this guitar. And then I wondered, has this been recorded and looped? Because there's a consistency to the inconsistency, right? And then I came to the conclusion, and if the artist is in the comments on the replay, they can let me know if I'm correct or incorrect on this. But I thought maybe they did loop this. Now, the problem when you loop something which is charmingly off time is when you put all the other instruments with it. It's okay in the intro, but then when you start to put all the other instruments, they're going to expose that lack of consistency in the timing. And that's where I thought maybe the problem lies there. So I guess you've got two choices. Record that loop again and correct the timing issue, or kind of use that loop at the beginning, but then use a different version of that performance with a little better timing if you are going to use loops throughout the song. I don't know if it's looped all the way through the song or what have you, but that was my impression of what happened there. So, yeah, I guess that would be something with this piece of music, because I'm so glad to hear that both of you guys felt you were moved by this emotionally, that it affected you in some way. So, that is like the main goal. Unfortunately, sometimes if we have issues with the mix or some technical aspect of the performance, like timing or pitch, it can then just distract us a little bit from that emotional reaction we're having. But what that tells you is it's worth working on. It tells you that this piece of music is worth perhaps going back and addressing some of those issues. And it is a lot of effort to address these kind of issues, but it's worth it because your listeners are ultimately going to be affected by your piece of art, which is what we all want to do. And what for most of us, we probably feel like we rarely achieve sometimes. So when you've got a piece of music which is achieving it despite the technical issues, then you really know you're onto a bit of a winner there. So well done for Serendip for sending this in. It's always tremendously brave for all of our artists to exposed unfinished work to the world, and allow critique from people from all walks of life. It's incredibly brave. I don't know if I would be brave enough to do it, but yeah. But I think some people want me to grab my cakewalk unfinished mixes and expose what they're like before, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to discredit myself in that way. but that may be coming, so just a little hint. So yeah, again, I did enjoy the piece of music though, and it's wonderful to hear something from another part of the world. Talking about other parts of the world, it's been lovely to have people in the live chat with us today from different parts of the world, and it's also been especially wonderful to have someone from Boston and someone from LA here with us. Those people being Micah and Cordero from Sons of Serendip. Guys, can I just put you on the spot? Can you come on the show again at some point?
We would love that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun, isn't it? It's a bit of a buzz just to listen to some cool music and see how we go with it. I can't thank you enough for being here, putting a bit of a smile on my face this morning. With you guys, really been enjoyable. I will leave Micah had the final word in the interview, so let's leave the final word to the exquisite, the amazing, the talented Cordero.
I would say there's no way forward except to just keep pushing through. Whenever you feel discouraged with what you're creating, I think just consistency is the best way to be able to get through all those hurdles, and to just be militant in putting stuff out there, and allow that part of you that critiques, allow it to have its space, but not when you're in the process of creating. Basically, I would say split yourself up like the way it's done here, where you just do the creating and then you come back and you listen with that critical part and then correct it. And I think that you can have some pretty reasonable gains in your abilities with production.
Great words of advice. I love that. What a lovely way to think about it. Thank you so much to everyone who's been here. I will try my hardest to be back. I'm pretty sure I will be back next, depending on what part of the world you're in, Thursday or Friday, at this usual time slot. If you have some music that you would like to send in for the show, follow the instructions in the description down below. It's essentially send me an email with the title Fix My Mix. It's handy if we know a little bit about your music and yourself. I like to have a little bit of background information. Please remember, even if you're beginning your journey and maybe your mix isn't sounding that great, that's absolutely fine. That's why we want you to send the music in, so that we can help you and help ourselves in the process, as I say, by exercising our ears and our minds in this way. That's the end of the show for today, and I will